You're recognized.
Now we got mic problems out of the way. I can't know if I can see him. past
Okay,
the pillar
a couple
there.
of questions, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. For questions for Senator King and Mr. Birch. Have either of you ever seen government make money easier to spend and not spend it?
You can answer that first. In the 2000, Aaron Burks answer this question? I'm not sure how to answer that. I'm sorry.
It's a real simple question.
That's a yes or no.
Yes or no. But a non-answer is good enough. I heard Senator Collins' understanding, and I heard this most recent testimony. And what I heard you just say, Mr. Burks, was that what they said would help us was a formal trust fund, not reserve fund, okay? But I didn't hear where you said in that statement, and I've tried to listen carefully, because it turns out around here we have to listen very carefully, which is what makes me skeptical, is that that they have a difference when they look at folks that have a trust fund, that they look at how the legislature allows it to be spent if they have a formal reserve fund, which we don't have a formal reserve fund now. So are you telling me that the bond companies have stated that they're going to look at whether council does it or whether the whole legislature does it? Have they really said that?
No, sir. They're not that specific. Certainly, every state is different there in how they access their rainy day funds. The only language that I could point to specifically, and again, S&P and Moody's do not give a lot of guidance. I think somebody made a comment earlier that they won't tell us how a particular change will affect our bond rating, that sort of thing. But what they do talk about is, quote, available cash. And there's some further definition of that. They say we examine whether all funds are immediately available, which provides a high degree of flexibility, or whether legislative or executive authority is required to shift resources from other funds to cover the key operating fund requirements. So I think that we could conclude from this that there's a threshold. They don't want it to be very difficult to access because, again, as I think Representative Collins made the point, ultimately the legislature, the full legislature, can reprioritize at any time all spending. But this is a way to easily access some funds to cover a deficit.
Okay, I think Senator Teague made an excellent point when he said that, do they not look at the fact that we pay our bills when other people weren't, that we have a balanced budget, et cetera. Because sometimes, once in a while, I'm always, when experts come in and want to help me with my business, I'm always listening. And then there are times when I say, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Because one of the reasons we are that we've stayed in good shape is because we haven't made money easy to spend. So, but what I'm hearing from the executive branch, regardless of how much Senator King trusts you, what I'm hearing from the executive branch is that the bond companies wants us to put the power in the hands of the executive branch and not in the hands of the legislative branch, and that for that reason they will make us stronger as far as the bond companies are concerned.
And I don't know that they specifically state that it needs to be in the hands of the executive branch at all. I think the easier the better to access would be a point that would be legitimate. But like I said, there's no real specific guidance in terms of what mechanism is recommended or anything like that. I have not studied other states to see what mechanism they have. Those states that have been rated highly on this particular category. And to your point, absolutely. I mean, the AA rating is not a bad rating by any means. The AA rating still indicates that there's a very high likelihood that bonds will be paid as agreed. There are 28 states that have a higher bond rating than us, either a AA plus or a AAA, and so the governor has made it, an important priority for us to see if we can get that rating increased. if only from the standpoint of, you know, recruiting industries into the state. It certainly looks better. There is an interest savings. You know, we've run some rough numbers that, you know, typically we're looking at about 12 to 15 basis points savings between a AAA and a AA, which I think you heard the numbers, $1.8 million per year based on our outstanding indebtedness and general obligation bonds of $1.5 billion. You know, as interest rates rise, that difference will increase as well. So the savings could potentially be bigger than that.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned not looking at other states, because I presented a lot of bills. Senator King's presented a lot of bills, and I feel certain you probably have.